Hey guys, thanks so much for all the interesting responses on my previous video about investing. Now that the opportunity is there and the crisis is still sharp and hard, and some valuations are still very low, had lots of really interesting responses from you guys, tips on what you could invest in, what people are looking at. And for me, the most interesting ones are the one actually that I pinned, Carnival is cruise lines, because I like charts where it drops from a cliff and it's still at the all-time low. That's certainly the case there. The stock is valued the same than it was 20 years ago. This is a cruise line worth 10 billion or so. That has a lot of ships, maybe 10 or so big cruise ships, and they've been growing revenues as the first thing I look at steadily every year. So it's but I wouldn't say it's not a fast growing company, but at 5 to 10% per year, that's good. They were hit hard by this crisis. One of their ships, for example, was stuck in Australia and had lots of coronavirus infected people on it, and was finally able to unboard and then able to flee the country with the crew and the ship. But very controversial, because the Australian people think they should have never allowed to be onboarded. So I totally in the middle of this crisis, can't get much worse than that, and you can see it at the valuation too. But there is no risk of going broke. They secured a 10 billion loan or so at high interest, and 10% interest, but of course, I mean, they don't have the chance for them to go broke is not there even. It's like extremely low, so your capital is not really at risk of default. And so I think with cruise lines, you will see that you already see reports where all these cancelled cruise voyages, holidays, most 75% of those that were cancelled, 75% of the people, instead of wanting their money back, they just want to rebook for the year later. So and it looks like typical, I think, will apply to all these kind of tourist activities, that people get frustrated being locked up and will travel a lot more after this flies over. After they are able to get out again, they will make up for lost time. So I think cruise ships will benefit a lot from this, but it will be a slower rebuild. And for example, the second best tip I got, and three, there is also the airlines that I like, and there's also the oil tankers. Those are the three things that I like. The airlines, I think, will recover much quicker. You have, of course, the Delta and American Airlines, but these are big companies that I don't think are interesting. If you look at, and also Singapore Airlines, someone recommended, but if you look at the revenue growth, it's very bad. If you want to see your capital grow fast, you have to invest in companies that grow fast. That's rule number one. Or companies that grow slow but are seriously undervalued. Carnival falls under that. That's an exception. PE ratio, for example, of Carnival is 4. That's that means you hold the share for 4 years. You'll have the money back simply by the earnings, and that's earnings, that is profits after paying for all expenses. I think it's even after taxes. So that's a very low valuation. But these airlines, I think the big airlines are not interesting investments. Many of them are actually almost government entities. Also in the US, they get government bailouts. But also Singapore Airlines, for example, just got a government bailout. It was a good tip someone recommended there. You can buy, and thank you for the person that recommended that. You can subscribe for $3 a share, but it's traded at $6 a share, and it used to be like $20 or $30. And it dropped to $6 now, but you can actually buy one share, and then you are a shareholder, and then you can subscribe for the new issue of shares, and you can oversubscribe. So you can, if you have one share, you're allowed to basically get one share of the new shares that they will sell for $3 a share, and then you pay $3, you get an extra share. But you can oversubscribe and subscribe for 100 or 1,000 shares, and if other shareholders don't subscribe for their shares, you will be able to buy their extra shares for $3 a piece, and that way you buy below market. And of course that can be a very profitable transaction very quickly, because you can immediately sell those shares. So it's short term, might be a very good trade, but I don't like to invest in things that are long term, don't have a good long-term prospects. And I don't think that's the case, for example, with Singapore Airlines, because, well, it's just shocking. The revenues 20 years ago were 15 billion, and today it's 20 billion. How is that possible? If you account for inflation, it's even going down, the amount of money that they make. So this is not a growing company, it's a declining company. That's really not something I dare to invest in. But for example, when it comes to airlines, we have the budget airlines in Europe: Ryanair, Wizz Air, Jet Air, and these are fast growing companies that also have declined, not that much, by 50% or so on the stock market, but they have clearly really fast growing revenues. And as I understood from a pilot that was explaining, typically every 10 years you have a big crisis in the world that affects also the airlines. The last one was the 2008 financial crisis. The one before was the 9/11 attacks. Always really impacted airlines, and especially the 9/11 attacks grounded also the whole fleet. In the US, that led to a consolidation of the industry, because it took half a year, even 2 years before people were flying as normal again. So airlines really were severely affected by that, and what you saw was that they would consolidate. The major airlines consolidate, but even the small budget airlines would consolidate, and so what you then see is that there is less competition. And then later, in the beginning, they reduce prices a lot because they want people to get back to flying. But because they also consolidate, they have much less airlines, and there's less competition. And after a while, they can push up prices again because there's less competition, and they make their money back and more. And so he predicts that's the same that's going to happen here. And yeah, sounds plausible. In Europe, for example, some big airlines have gone broke already now. So the weakest companies typically go broke during a crisis, and that applies to airlines too. So some are starting to just go broke, and others, but others are really not at risk of going broke. And I think these budget airlines like Ryanair and Wizz Air have very low risk of going broke, and actually will profit tremendously thanks to this crisis, because once people start flying again, some of these weaker airlines, well, are not there anymore to book on. So the survivors have more customers, but also yeah, these are expanding companies like Ryanair and Wizz Air, for example, during this crisis did their first transatlantic flight for a rescue mission in the US. This is all politically connected stuff, but they did their first transatlantic flights, which these budget airlines actually can do with the planes that they have. They did a stopover in Iceland. I think, yeah, in 5 to 10 years we will see these budget airlines grow into much bigger companies and push away these major airlines that are not competitive companies. They don't really even, the amount of economical and efficiency thinking that's going on there is not that high, so they make much less money, and these budget airlines do make real money and are growing. So I think these are interesting investments that I'm looking at. And then you have the oil tankers also, and at first I thought that was not interesting. These are terrible investments, all these companies. On a 10-20 year basis, you only see the value go down over time, so I don't like that at all. But they do make 10 times more now per ship. Like, you can rent such an oil tanker to store oil in or to transport oil in for about $20,000 per day, but now they can ask $200,000 per day because there is a glut in oil, and many people want to rent oil tankers to store their oil in to be able to sell it later for a higher price. So 200,000 per day, so they make 10 times more than usual. But then the person, and thank you for recommending this, says that actually there's more going on here. It's not just a temporary bump in fees that you see here. Very likely what will happen is, okay, this oil crisis will go over, but there is actually a shortage of oil tankers because the market has gone down for 20 years. All these companies means it was really actually bad business to be in the oil tanker business, and so what you see is that there has been very few investment in new oil tankers. There are lots of old oil tankers, and after this crisis a lot of these old oil tankers will actually be go to the scrapyard. So the supply of oil tankers will continue to be tight because there have been very little investment in it, and that will cause a continued shortage of oil tankers and continued high prices that they are able to ask, and therefore he predicts that it's a long-term also a good investment. I think it's a strong case made. Thank you so much for that. I'm sorry I don't have your name here, but I really appreciate you told that. So I think that's the third interesting investment. If you know any other great investments, let us know in the comments here. I think I'm a little bit should I buy these shares now or should I try to buy them lower? I'm still conflicted about that, because yes, I do think crypto stocks have a high chance to correct before continuing to go up, but not make new lows. I really don't think that's likely, but test the lows or at least go halfway back. Yes, I think that's likely. But then on the other hand, who does not think that that is likely these days? Huh? Everybody thinks that it's likely to correct again, right? Even the bulls, huh? So that's the big problem of this conviction, is that it may actually just not happen. Also, if you look at other indicators like just in general, prices are low, huh? And therefore fear is still high in the market. The crisis is still all there. Shutdowns are still there. Yes, there is. You start to see that people want to start lifting these shutdowns, but it still looks all very bleak. Also for the airline industry, a lot of uncertainties. Like, okay, they're gonna be able to start flying soon again. Airports will open again, but will there become extra regulations that they have to keep a seat open in the middle? That would really be a big problem for airlines. And how quickly will people start flying again? I think the positive there is that people will start flying again a lot quicker than they will start doing cruise line holidays again. Huh? So I do think that's a very positive for the airlines. But actually, the climate will change a lot over only the next few weeks already. Once planes start flying in 2 weeks again, in a 1 month from here, it could look very different, the landscape, and actually the crisis, the fear might have gone down a lot in the world, but therefore also in the market, and that really pushes actually prices up. So I think it's actually also risky to actually not buy at current price, especially when you see companies that are at a low, have not bumped yet, like these airlines, Ryanair, Wizz Air. They haven't gone up much, or Carnival, no, or these oil tankers companies. It's also a strange story. These oil tanker companies, they are lower today in value than they were in January. In January they were not making 10 times more. Now they do, and they are valued lower. They have not seen even a bump in their stock valuation. So all these valuations are very attractive if you look at it from a distance, and therefore I think it might be really wise actually to buy at current valuation and not to try to buy lower, because you might actually totally miss out. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think. Not many people out here. Eh? Not many people out here. Hey, Mikey. How are you, my boy? How's life? Huh? How's life? Huh? You enjoy the grass? Huh? You enjoy the grass? Huh? Wil je dat ik je pak, hè? You want me to grab you? Huh? Yeah? Can you stand already? Yeah. Yeah. So what you have here? What is this? You seem to have a big belly. A very big belly.
I was told it's twins.
Twins, eh? Wow. Wow. Well. That looking good, eh? That looking good, eh? Big belly, big belly. Ja? Wat wil je doen, huh? What do you want to do, huh? You want to grab Mikey? Come inside, yes, come inside. Let's close the door. Come. Joy, come in. Come in, Joy, come. I'm gonna close the door. Close the door. Are you coming? Are you coming? Huh? Are you coming, little lady? Come. Mikey is taking her drink. Yeah. Whoa! What is that, eh? Whoa, what is that, missus, eh? What is that, eh? Huh? No? We'll go out right away, huh? Right away. One moment, eh? So, something I forgot to say, my dear friends, is that should I invest in these companies now? Or I could also try to invest in Tesla, or just invest more in Tesla. That is actually a much better company than these cruise lines or airlines or oil tanker companies. The problem is that Tesla is not depressed and has just bumped strong, and actually the upwards potential is 1,500, maximum 2,000, I think, so it can go double, triple from here maximum. But if you look at these depressed companies like that cruise line, Carnival, for example, it went from $60 to $12 now. That can easily double, triple, and it's still not at fair value, and certainly not at serious overvaluation, which would be the case with Tesla. And so there's much more margin of safety there, and you can also double, triple your money there without taking high risk in investing in something that is already fairly valued, which is the case with Tesla. So that's attractive to me about these investments. And of course, momentum. Of course, Tesla has strong momentum, but yeah, I think this crisis may fly over much faster than people expect, and so the valuations of these depressed stocks may also go away quickly. So yeah, thanks for watching.